A private island, not on any tourist map, and only the rich and powerful ever get invited there. Out there, the rules disappear. Deals are made that never get written down, and parties take place that no one talks about in public. For her, it was supposed to be nothing more than a short Christmas event job, a luxury trip, great pay, and a guest list full of important people. But once she arrived on the island, she realized something terrifying. Some places aren't meant to be left, and the people who go there don't always come back the same. This story is inspired by real events, with certain details changed to keep it respectful. And today's story is about the girl who escaped that island, then disappeared, before anyone believed her. Now let's dive in and enjoy the thrilling details that make this story. On a cold December evening, just a few days before Christmas, the small cafe on the corner was packed with people trying to escape the freezing air outside. Dim lights, soft music, and the rich smell of hot coffee filled the room. Leon moved quickly between the tables, one tray after another in her hands, a steady, polite smile on her face. She was only 19, but she was already living a full life on her own. No family in the city, no one checking on her. Just a tiny apartment she shared with a friend, and rent that had to be paid at the end of every month. That was why she never said no to extra shifts. But for the past few weeks, one particular customer had been catching her attention. An elegant woman, maybe in her late 30s, always arriving alone, always sitting at the same table by the window, always ordering the same coffee, and always watching Leon. Not quick, casual glances, long, studying looks, like she was examining her. At first, Leon thought it was just normal curiosity, but after the 5th visit, something about it started to feel strange. And that night, when she set the cup down in front of her, the woman spoke calmly. "Your name is Leon, right?" Leon froze for a second. Do I know you?" The woman gave a faint smile. "I come here a lot, and honestly, you stood out to me." Leon didn't know what to say, so she just smiled politely. The woman was quiet for a moment, then leaned forward slightly. "I have a very simple job offer, with very good pay." Leon raised an eyebrow. "What kind of job?" The woman pulled out a small card from her purse and placed it on the table. "A private event on a luxury island. Just 48 hours. Hospitality work. Greeting guests. The money you'll make could cover your rent for months." Leon looked at the card, then back at the woman. "An island? Where?" "A short trip on a private plane. Everything's covered, travel, food, accommodation, all of it." Leon hesitated. "I've never worked anything like that before." The woman smiled confidently. "That's not a problem. And if you like the job, it could become something permanent, with very important people." She paused, then added softly, "People with money and influence." A small knot of tension formed in Leon's chest, but she couldn't deny it. The offer sounded extremely tempting. Just 48 hours, and maybe all her financial problems would disappear. "When would I leave?" she asked carefully. 2 days before Christmas," the woman said. "A short trip, and you'll be back before the holiday." Leon fell silent. Her mind started racing. The rent, the bills, her nearly empty bank account. She finally looked up. "I'll think about it." The woman smiled, as if she had expected that answer. "Of course. Just don't take too long. Spots are limited." She left the card on the table, stood up calmly, and walked out of the cafe. Leon stayed where she was, watching the door after she left. She didn't know why, but a strange feeling crept into her chest. Something like anxiety, or maybe a quiet warning she couldn't quite hear. But in that moment, the sound of danger wasn't louder than the sound of her need for money. So she slipped the card into her pocket and went back to her shift, not knowing that that tiny piece of paper was about to take her somewhere she would never forget. 2 days passed after Layan's meeting with the mysterious woman, but the card stayed in her pocket, feeling heavier than it should. Every time she tried to ignore it, she remembered the rent waiting for her at the end of the month. The next night, she sat with her friend Nora in the tiny apartment they shared. The place barely fit the two of them. Simple furniture, a narrow kitchen, and a window that looked out onto a busy, restless street. Nora slurped cheap noodles from a cup and frowned. A Christmas party on a private island? That sounds a little weird. Layan sighed. I know, but the money is really good, and I'll only be there for the party. Just a few days. Nora looked at her with concern. Okay, but what's the company's name? Where exactly is this place? Layan hesitated. She didn't give many details, but she looks respectable. She comes to the cafe all the time. Nora shook her head slowly. I don't know. I've got a bad feeling about it. But Layan had already made up her mind. The next morning, she called the number on the card. The same woman answered. I knew you'd say yes. 2 days later, Layan stood in front of a side gate at a small airport, far from the crowded terminals. No advertisements, no long lines, just quiet security, and a small white plane waiting on the runway. An elegant employee approached her, holding a list of names. Your name? Layan. She checked the list, then smiled. Right this way. Almost everyone's here. Layan climbed the stairs into the plane slowly, her heart pounding. Inside, she wasn't alone. There were 5 other girls, around 17 to 20 years old. Some looked nervous. Others tried to act normal. Layan took an empty seat by the window. A blonde girl beside her smiled. First time? Yeah. You? The girl shrugged. Me too. A short silence. Then the girl whispered, Do you actually know where we're going? Layan hesitated. An island. Private party. The girl let out a quiet, uneasy laugh. Same story they told all of us. Before she could say more, a man in a sharp suit walked in and looked at them. The flight will take less than an hour. If you need anything, the attendant is available. Then he sat in the front seat without a smile. A few minutes later, the plane door closed, and the engines roared to life. Layan felt a small knot in her stomach as she watched the ground drift away outside the window. The city grew smaller, then into tiny dots, then disappeared completely behind the clouds. Inside the plane, almost no one spoke. The girls exchanged quick glances, but most of them stayed silent, as if each one was thinking the same question. But no one dared to say it out loud. After about 50 minutes, the plane began to descend. Layan looked out the window and saw something that looked like a picture from a travel magazine. Clear turquoise water, white sandy beaches, and a massive resort in the middle of a green island, surrounded by luxury yachts. The girl beside her whispered, This place looks like paradise. But Layan, for some reason, didn't feel like it was paradise at all. When the plane stopped, the door opened, and a warm ocean breeze brushed their faces. The elegant man stood at the exit and said, Welcome. We hope you enjoy your stay. Layan stepped down the stairs, her feet touching the island ground for the first time. The sun was bright. The place looked perfect from the outside. But deep inside, there was a quiet feeling. that this trip wouldn't end the way it started, and that this party, these few days, might change her life forever. After the girls stepped off the plane, black cars were waiting for them at the edge of the runway. There was no crowd, no busy staff, just men in formal clothes with stiff, expressionless faces. One of the employees gestured for the girls to get into the cars without speaking. Lion sat beside a thin girl with dark hair, who clutched her small bag tightly to her chest, as if she were afraid someone might take it from her. The car moved slowly, passing through dense trees, until the resort suddenly appeared in front of them. A wide white building, surrounded by green gardens and stone pathways. Everything looked clean, almost too clean. The place was luxurious, but strangely quiet. No music, no laughter, no random movement. Just a heavy silence hanging over everything. The girls entered the main building, where a woman in an elegant suit greeted them. "Welcome. From now on, each of you will follow the schedule assigned to you. Your rooms are ready, and you'll receive instructions later." None of them asked any questions. It was as if they had all silently agreed not to speak. The employee led them down a long corridor. The floor was polished marble, and identical doors lined both sides. She stopped at one and opened it. "This is room 12. Lion stepped inside. The room was fairly large, but nothing about it stood out. 3 neatly made beds, a small wardrobe, and a table in the corner. 2 girls were already inside. One sat on a bed, staring at the floor. The other stood near the window, not even turning when Lion entered. Lion smiled shyly. "Hi. I'm Lion." Neither girl answered. Lion glanced at the employee, but the woman said coldly, "Get some rest. You'll be called when it's your turn." Then she closed the door behind her. A heavy silence filled the room. Lion sat on the 3rd bed, trying to act normal. After a minute, she tried again. "Where are you from?" The girl on the bed slowly lifted her head, glanced toward the door, then whispered, "Lower your voice." Lion froze. "Why?" The girl didn't answer. She only pointed her eyes toward the ceiling. Lion looked up and saw a small, dark corner near the top of the wall. She wasn't sure, but it looked like a tiny lens, a camera. A chill ran through her body. The other girl stepped closer and whispered, "Talk less. And it's better if you just follow the instructions." "What instructions?" But the girl didn't respond. She returned to her bed and lay down, turning her back. The silence returned. Heavier than before. An hour passed. Then 2. No one entered the room. No one called for them. Only the hum of the air conditioner and distant footsteps in the hallway. Lion tried to sleep but couldn't. She felt like the entire place was watching her. Even the air felt measured. Suddenly, she remembered Nora's words before the trip. "I've got a bad feeling about this." She swallowed and looked at the closed door. In that moment, Lion realized for the first time that the problem wasn't the flight or the island. It was this strange silence inside the room. A silence that felt like a warning. The days passed painfully slow for Lion. Time on the island felt different, slower, heavier, like every minute wasn't moving on the clock, but pressing down on her chest. The daily routine looked simple from the outside. Wake up early, silent breakfast, short instructions. Then long, endless hours waiting inside the room. They weren't allowed to go out unless someone called for them, and walking around alone was strictly forbidden. But the thing that bothered Lion the most was the silence of the 2 girls in her room. Every time she tried to start a conversation, the answers were short. almost empty. "Since when have you been here?" "I don't remember." "You came for the same job?" "Maybe." "Has anyone ever left after the party they came for?" No answer. They would just exchange a quick glance, then fall back into silence. There was something wrong, something the two girls were hiding, or too afraid to even think about. Lion was one of the lucky ones. She was assigned to cleaning rooms, cooking, and doing laundry for the girls in the building. She had nothing to do with the parties, not even serving food or drinks, like the woman who recruited her had promised. But she didn't complain. She didn't even try to ask again. She was scared, truly scared. All she wanted was the first chance to get a break, so she could leave and never come back. She kept telling herself, cleaning and cooking is way better than dealing with the guests. But deep down, she didn't even believe her own words. She was just trying to comfort herself until she got paid and could return to her city, especially since she thought the longer she stayed on the island, the more money she'd earn. Several days passed, then a full week. The parties kept happening. The days kept moving. But no one talked about time off. No one mentioned money, and she didn't even know who to ask. Whenever she asked someone, the answer was always cold and short. "I don't know anything. When the manager comes back from vacation, we'll ask him." After that, they stopped answering her completely. Leon started noticing small things, tiny details most people would ignore. Doors that were always locked from the outside, men standing in the hallways, silent, watching, girls disappearing from rooms, without anyone knowing where they went. Then one night, a little after midnight, Leon woke up to a faint sound, footsteps, and quiet whispers in the hallway. She slowly opened her eyes, looked around. The two girls were asleep, or at least pretending to be. She hesitated for a moment, but curiosity was stronger than fear. She slipped out of bed quietly and placed her feet on the floor without making a sound. She walked toward the door and opened it slowly, inch by inch. The hallway was dim, empty, but the whispers were still there, coming from the far end. Leon moved forward carefully, her heart pounding fast. Every step felt like the floor was screaming under her feet. She reached the end of the hallway and saw a half-open door. A faint light glowed behind it. She moved closer, then leaned slightly and looked through the gap. It was a small storage room. Boxes, shelves, cleaning supplies, and two men standing near the back door. One of them spoke in a low voice. "The girl who tried to run. We handled it." The other replied coldly, "Her and her friend?" "Yeah, like the others." Leon felt the blood freeze in her veins. The second man stepped closer. "The same old place?" "Yeah, under the hill. No one ever looks there." A short silence. Then the first man said, "Every time, same story. Someone thinks they can escape." The other man let out a quiet laugh. "No one leaves this island, unless we decide they do." Leon stepped back slowly. Her hand was shaking. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure they could hear it. "Like the others." The words kept echoing in her head. That meant she wasn't the first one to try, and she wouldn't be the last. Suddenly, she heard movement inside the storage room. "Did you hear something?" Leon froze, footsteps approaching the door. She backed away quickly, turned around, and started walking down the hallway. Slow at first, then faster. She didn't run. She knew running would draw attention, but her heart was running for her. She reached the room, closed the door quietly, and jumped into her bed. She pulled the blanket over her body and tried to control her breathing. A few seconds later, She heard footsteps outside the door. They stopped, paused, then moved away. Leanne didn't sleep that night. She just stared at the ceiling, the same sentence spinning inside her head. No one leaves this island. In that moment, she understood one thing. If she didn't escape on her own, no one was coming to get her out. After that night, the island was never the same in Leanne's eyes. The same hallways, the same rooms, the same silent faces. But everything carried a different meaning now. Heavier, darker, more frightening. She no longer saw it as a luxury resort. She saw it for what it really was. A giant cage. Beautiful on the outside. Locked from the inside. The next morning, the two girls woke up as usual without saying a word. They sat on their beds, changing their clothes in silence. Leanne watched them for a long moment, then spoke in a low voice. "I heard something last night." One of them paused, but she didn't look at her. "I heard two men talking, in the storage room." No answer. Leanne continued, her heart beating faster. "They said a girl tried to escape, and they buried her." This time, the girl closest to the door slowly lifted her head. She looked at Leanne for a long moment, then whispered, "You need to forget what you heard." "How am I supposed to forget that? That means—" She cut her off quickly. "Sound travels everywhere here. The wrong words can take their owner to a very bad place." Then she went silent again. The second girl kept staring at the floor, her hands trembling slightly. From that moment on, Leanne barely spoke. She understood that talking here was dangerous, and questions were even more dangerous. But her mind never stopped. Every small detail became important. She started watching everything around her. The number of guards in each hallway, the times they changed shifts, the doors that were always locked, and the ones that were sometimes left open. She memorized the path from her room to the dining hall, from the dining hall to the back corridor, from the back corridor to the open area near the shore. At first, she did it out of fear, but after a few days, fear turned into an idea. One clear idea: escape. The days crawled by. Christmas parties came and went. New faces arrived, and others disappeared. Some girls would suddenly vanish from the rooms and never come back. And every time that happened, the two girls in Leanne's room grew quieter. Even their whispers stopped, as if they were waiting for something or afraid of an ending getting closer. One day, Leanne was called to work in a hall near the marina. It was the first time she got close to the yachts surrounding the island. They were massive, bigger than anything she had ever seen. Shiny, white, luxurious, like floating palaces on the water. But what caught her attention wasn't the yachts themselves. It was the movement around them. Men unloading food crates, others carrying suitcases, small vehicles moving supplies back and forth. There was a clear path, from the island to the outside world, a path across the water. Leanne stood still for a moment, watching one of the yachts slowly pull away. Something moved inside her chest, something that felt like hope. That night, she returned to the room, her mind racing. "I don't have to escape the island itself," she thought. "I just need to get out of here on any boat, any yacht, anything that moves away." But the problem was obvious. Getting to the marina wasn't easy, and there were always guards. And any failed attempt could end the same way as the story she heard in the storage room. She started watching the important days. The days when new guests arrived. The days when big parties were held. On those days, the place became more crowded, the guards more distracted. And over time, She kept hearing one word repeated among the staff. Valentine's. A big party was coming. Many guests, more yachts than usual. A crowded night, a chaotic night. A night that could be her only chance. That evening, Lian sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling, just like she did on her first night there. But this time, she wasn't thinking only about fear. She was thinking about the route, the timing, and every single step she would have to take. She didn't have a full plan yet, but she knew one thing for sure. Valentine's Day would be the day she escapes, and if she failed, she might never get another chance. Valentine's Day finally arrived. From early morning, the island felt different. The hallways Lian was used to seeing half empty were now filled with workers, guards, and guests. Boxes of red roses passed from one place to another. New lights were being hung. Small carts moved in every direction. The whole place looked like it was preparing for a massive celebration, bigger than anything she had seen before. But for Lian, this wasn't a day of celebration. This was the day of escape. She stood in front of the mirror in the room, trying to look normal. The supervisor had told her the night before that for the first time, she would go down with the other girls to the party near the beach. She was told to dress up and wear something eye-catching. Her hands trembled slightly, but she tried to hide it. The two girls in the room didn't ask her anything. They just watched her in silence, as if they both knew that something was going to happen tonight. Before she left, one of them whispered, "If you get a chance, run." Lian looked at her in shock. She hadn't expected that. But the girl didn't say anything else. She lowered her eyes again, as if she was afraid someone might hear. As the sun went down, the guests started to arrive. Luxury yachts approached the dock, one after another. Lights reflected on the surface of the water. Soft music drifted from the main halls. Men in elegant suits, women in expensive dresses. Loud laughter and glasses clinking in the air. But behind all that shine, there was a hidden tension. Guards moved quickly, radios buzzed non-stop, orders were given every minute. The chaos Lian had been waiting for was finally forming. She was assigned to work in the beach hall near the dock. The moment she heard that, her heart jumped inside her chest. This was her chance. For the next few hours, she moved between the tables, carrying plates and glasses, shocked by the scene around her. The girls were very young, most of them barely dressed, treated harshly, like they didn't matter at all. It was her first time inside a beach party on the island, and the level of security was unlike anything she had seen before. It was obvious the guests were powerful people. You could tell from their clothes, their behavior, and the heavy protection around them. This party was different from the others, but her eyes never stopped watching the outside. The path leading to the dock, the number of guards, the moments they got distracted. She memorized every detail. Around midnight, the party reached its peak. The music got louder. The laughter grew wilder. Guests started moving between the halls and the beach. In that moment, Lian noticed something important. One of the side corridors leading to the dock was almost empty. The two guards who had been standing there left toward the main hall after receiving a call on their radios. The path was open, exactly as she had hoped. She stopped for a moment near an empty table, pretending she was waiting for an order. But inside, her heart was screaming, "This is it. If you miss this, you won't get another chance." She took a deep breath. Then she moved. Not too fast, not too slow, just normal steps, like she was heading to do a task. She entered the side corridor, looked behind her. No one. The music grew more distant. The noise covered the sound of her steps. She reached the dock area. Yachts were lined up quietly, their lights reflecting on the dark water. Some were full of people. Others looked empty, as if they were waiting for their owners. She remembered what she had heard from the workers. There's a big yacht leaving after the party. The owner came specially for Valentine's. Her eyes searched quickly. Then she saw it. A huge white yacht, bigger than the rest, tied at the end of the pier. There were no guards around it, just two workers carrying boxes inside. She hid behind a wooden crate, watching. After a few minutes, the workers finished and walked back toward the hall. The area became empty. Lion swallowed hard. This moment was the line between two lives. Either she makes it, or she disappears like the others. She looked around one last time. No one. Then she ran. Light, fast steps across the wooden pier until she reached the side of the yacht. The service door at the back was half open. She slipped inside quickly and closed it behind her, as quietly as possible. Inside the yacht, everything was calm. Dim lights, the smell of food and fuel. She heard distant voices on the upper deck, men laughing and talking. The guests were still at the party. She moved through the narrow corridor until she found a small storage room. Water boxes, canned food, bags of supplies. She opened a corner space and slipped inside. Then she pulled an old cloth bag over herself to stay hidden. Darkness surrounded her. And for the first time in weeks, she felt like there was a real wall between her and the island. But the danger wasn't over yet, because the yacht hadn't moved. Leon sat in the corner of the storage room, between boxes of water and canned food. She pulled her knees to her chest, trying to control her breathing. Darkness surrounded her from every side. The only sounds reaching her were faint noises from outside, distant laughter, and the soft waves tapping against the side of the yacht. Long minutes passed, but to her they felt like hours. Every sound made her heart jump. Every step on the deck above felt like it was coming straight toward her. Then, she heard a door open on the upper level. Men's voices, heavy laughter, unsteady footsteps. One of them said loudly, "That was an amazing party. We gotta do that again soon." Another voice replied, "Let's finish up fast. We need to move before morning." Leon froze in place. That meant the yacht was leaving soon. A few more minutes passed. Then the yacht trembled slightly. The sound of an engine starting, a soft vibration beneath the floor. Leon grabbed the edge of a crate tightly, her eyes wide in the darkness. It's really moving. She heard the water shift, ropes being released, and the engine growing louder. The island was drifting away. She didn't know where the yacht was heading, or how long the trip would take, or even if it would reach a city, or just another island. The only thing she knew was that she wasn't there anymore, and that alone was enough to give her a tiny spark of hope. Time inside the storage room felt strange. No window, no clock, no way to tell how much time had passed. Hunger started pressing on her, but she didn't dare open any cans. She was afraid of the smallest noise. She only sipped a little water from one of the bottles, then returned to her silent position. Hours passed, or at least, that's how it felt. Sometimes the yacht shook violently. Other times, it went completely still. And every time she heard footsteps nearby, she held her breath until the sound disappeared. At one point, the footsteps stopped right in front of the storage room door. The handle moved slightly. Lion froze. She barely breathed. If the door opened now, everything would be over. But after a moment, she heard one man say, "Leave it. That's just the food storage." The other replied, "All right, let's go upstairs." The footsteps moved away. Lion didn't even realize she had been crying silently until she felt the tears on her cheeks. After a long while, the sound of the engine began to calm, then it stopped. A strange silence filled the place. She could only hear distant noises, different ones this time. Not music, not men's voices. It was children laughing, and the sound of water rolling gently near the shore. She hesitated. Did we arrive? Or is this another place like the island? She waited. Long minutes passed. No footsteps on the yacht, no voices nearby. Very slowly, she pushed the crate in front of her aside. She stepped out of her hiding spot and quietly opened the storage room door. The corridor was empty. She moved slowly until she reached a small back door. She opened it just a little and looked outside. The island was gone. Instead, she saw a wide beach, nearby houses, and children playing in the shallow water. Families, ordinary people. Real laughter. Not the fake kind. Her knees almost gave out. I made it! But she didn't have time to think. She looked around quickly. No one was watching the door. She took off her shoes and quietly stepped into the water. It was cold, but she didn't care. She walked among the people as if she were one of them. No one noticed her. No one asked where she came from. She was just a girl, walking out of the sea. When she reached the shore, she approached a family standing near the road. In a tired voice, she said, "Excuse me, can I use your phone for a minute?" They looked at her with surprise, but her exhausted face said everything. The woman handed her the phone without hesitation. Her hand was trembling as she dialed her friend's number. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Then her friend's voice came through. "Hello?" Lian couldn't hold herself together anymore. It's me, Lian." A short silence. "Lian? Where are you?" She closed her eyes and said in a broken voice, "I came back." Lian reached the apartment after a long trip. A trip where she barely felt anything at all. She sat in the back seat of the car, staring out the window without really seeing what was passing by. Streets, shops, lights, people walking like everything was normal. Everything looked so ordinary, too ordinary, as if the whole world hadn't changed, while only her life had been turned completely upside down. When her friend opened the door, she didn't say anything at first. She just looked at her, then pulled her into a tight hug. "Where were you? You've been gone for 2 months." Lian didn't answer. She walked into the apartment with slow steps and sat on the first chair she saw. A few minutes later, 2 more friends arrived after hearing the news. One of them was the one who had sent her the money so she could take a car back to the city. The room quickly filled with questions. What happened? Where were you all this time? Are you okay? Did someone hurt you? But Lian didn't answer right away. She kept looking at the floor, as if the words were stuck in her throat. Then she said quietly, "I have to tell you, even if no one believes me." She sat among them, her hand still trembling slightly. She started from the beginning, from the cafe, from the woman who used to watch her all the time, from the strange offer before Christmas, from the plane and the 5 other girls, and the silent room. Then she paused for a moment, before continuing in a low voice. That place wasn't normal parties. Something was wrong there. Their expressions began to change. It wasn't just concern anymore. There was doubt mixed in now. But Leanne kept going. She talked about the strange nights, the sounds in the hallways, and the conversation she overheard in the storage room. The room fell completely silent. Then one of them said, "Wait, you're saying that place had really important people, and no one knows about it?" She slowly shook her head. "A lot of people know, but no one talks. Or maybe no one ever gets out." Another friend let out a light, uneasy laugh. "Lion, this sounds like a conspiracy movie." She lifted her head toward him, her eyes filling with tears. "I was there. I saw everything." But the doubt had already spread through the room. Her friend said gently, "Maybe what happened to you was something else, and you just misunderstood it." Another person added, "Or maybe someone messed with your head there, or took you somewhere different." Every sentence felt like a small stab. Leanne looked at them one by one. These people were her closest friends, the ones she trusted more than anyone. And yet, not one of them believed her. She stood up suddenly. "Fine. It doesn't matter if you believe me." She walked toward her room and quietly closed the door behind her. That night, no sound came from inside. No crying, no movement. Just a long, heavy silence, as if it were hiding something. And the next morning, when her friend knocked on the door, there was no answer. The door didn't open. At first, her friend thought Lion was still asleep. The night before had been heavy, full of tears, tension, and too many questions. She knocked again. "Lion?" Silence. She tried the handle and realized the door wasn't locked. She pushed it slowly. It opened. The room looked strangely neat, nicer than usual. The bed was perfectly made, the blanket folded with care. The small bag Leanne had arrived with was gone. So were her clothes. But one thing remained, a piece of paper, resting on the pillow. Her friend's hand trembled as she picked it up. It was written in Lian's handwriting. "I tried to tell the truth. I told everything I saw, everything that happened. But it's clear now that some stories are too big for anyone to believe. If I disappear, don't think I ran away to forget. Maybe I'm running away just to stay alive. And if one day someone asks about me, tell them there are places in this world where the truth is more dangerous than lies. I'm sorry. Lion." Her friend slowly sat down on the bed. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at the letter, as if trying to understand it. She called the others, then stayed sitting on the bed, the note still in her hands. The other friends came into the room. "What is it?" She handed them the paper. One of them read it in a trembling voice, then said, "Maybe she just went out for a walk, or to buy something." But everyone knew that wasn't true. They searched the apartment, the street, the nearby cafes, nothing. No sign of her. No cameras caught her leaving. No one saw her. It was as if she had simply vanished. Days passed, then weeks. Worry turned into fear, and fear slowly turned into silence. After a short time, everyone stopped asking, just like Lion, stopped appearing. But her friend never threw the letter away. She kept it in a small drawer, taking it out from time to time, reading it again. And every time she remembered the look in Lion's eyes that night. It wasn't the look of a confused girl. It was the look of someone who had seen something no one else would ever believe. A full week passed, then another, then a month. No news. Layan never came back. She didn't call. She didn't send a message. Her name didn't appear in any records, any cameras, or any hospitals. It was as if the earth had swallowed her whole. At first, her friend tried to convince herself it was normal. Maybe Layan just needed time. Maybe she wanted to start over somewhere new. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she just didn't want anyone to know where she was. But the days moved slowly, heavily, and deep down, something felt wrong. She kept remembering Layan's words that night, her trembling voice, her hands moving nervously as she spoke, and that look in her eyes. It wasn't the look of someone who came back from a normal trip. It was the look of someone who survived something and still wasn't sure if she was truly safe. On the 40th day after her disappearance, something strange happened. A letter appeared in front of the apartment door. There was no return address, no stamp, just her friend's name, written by hand. She froze the moment she saw the handwriting. She knew it instantly. It was Layan's. Her fingers trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside, there was only one sheet of paper. Short, simple, but the words felt heavier than anything. If this letter reached you, then I'm still alive. Don't try to look for me, and don't tell anyone what I told you. There are people who can make someone disappear, like they never existed at all. I'm not running because I'm weak. I'm running because I want to stay alive. Maybe one day I'll come back, when I'm sure no one can reach me. Take care of yourself. Layan. Her friend stood in the middle of the room, the letter shaking in her hands. She didn't know if she felt relief, because Layan was still alive, or fear, because maybe she was running from something very real, something you couldn't see and couldn't fight. In the following days, she tried to trace where the letter came from. She went to the post office. She asked the clerk if anyone had delivered a letter to her address. After checking the records, he shook his head. No, there's nothing. No registered mail, no sender, no record at all. No cameras, no name, no trace. Just like Layan. Months passed, then years. The island became global news. Investigations, scandals, big names appearing in headlines. But Layan's name never appeared anywhere. Not as a witness, not as a victim, not even as a missing person. It was as if she had never been there at all. The letter is still in a small drawer. Sometimes her friend takes it out and reads it in silence. And every time she asks herself the same question. Is Layan still hiding somewhere? Or was that letter the last trace of her before she disappeared forever? And here, we reach the end of our story. We hope it kept you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There are many more real, gripping stories waiting for you, including the one on your screen right now. See you in the next story.